On February 13, 2025, Air Canada released its full year 2024 financial report. The airline achieved record annual revenues for the year, but after expenses earned less than it did in 2023. Over the course of last year, Air Canada accepted 14 new aircraft into its fleet, while removing 2 relatively new freighters from its cargo operations, perhaps a sign that its venture into the dedicated freighter game hasn't gone according to plan. We take a look at all this and more for today's video. We'll first start with financials and end with an examination of Air Canada's fleet in early 2025. When it comes to figures we're about to list, the dollars mentioned are Canadian. The Canadian dollar against the US dollar has certainly seen better days, but at the time of making this video, one Canadian dollar is worth about 71 cents in US currency. And so, Canada's largest airline posted operating revenues of $22.255 billion. This was an increase of $422 million or 2% year over year. The airline reports that its operating expenses totaled nearly $21 billion. Unfortunately for the airline, this too increased from the year prior, up by a staggering $1.438 billion or 7%. While Air Canada's fuel cost for the year was 9.9% less than in 2023, it reports burning 7% more fuel over the same period. Air Canada adds that expense increase was largely due to higher costs in most line items due to capacity growth, higher labour, maintenance and IT expenses. There was also a one-time $490 million charge recorded in the fourth quarter of 2024. This hefty charge had to do with pension plan amendments linked to the carrier's new collective agreement with the Airline Pilots Association. And so operating revenue subtracting operating expenses gives us our operating income of $1.263 billion. This represents an operating margin of 5.7%. Year over year, operating income saw a decrease of a little over $1 billion. This would explain why the airline stock fell by a considerable amount after financials were released. After factoring in non-operating revenue and expenses, Air Canada posted a pre-tax income of nearly $1.4 billion, which is down $296 million from 2023. In American dollars, this would be a little under $1 billion. Given the size of the Canadian market and the size of Air Canada's operations, this figure isn't too bad at all. And then when you consider the size of American Airlines operations and the fact that it brought in a pre-tax income of $1.154 billion US dollars, just a fraction more than Air Canada, well, it shows you how poorly American Airlines is doing at the moment. Just to further emphasize the difference in size, American Airlines' mainline fleet is 4.5 times larger than Air Canada's mainline fleet. Despite the massive size difference, Air Canada's pre-tax income after currency conversion was 86% of Americans. But moving on to Air Canada's operating statistics, it saw about 88.6 billion revenue passenger miles, or RPMs, for the year. This was up 3.3% from 2023. Available seat miles, or ASMs, was a little over 104 billion, a 5.4% increase from 2023. Air Canada's passenger load factor was actually down from the previous year, 85% versus 86.7%. This can be countered by the fact that the airline reports having dispatched 5% more seats year over year and had 4% higher aircraft frequencies. Moving on to Air Canada's fleet, we can see that the airline ended 2024 with 354 aircraft compared to 361 at the end of 2023, a decrease of nearly 2%. Since the end of 2024, the airline has taken delivery of 2 737 MAX 8s, and so we can look at the most recent data available as posted by planespotters.net. In the mainline fleet, Air Canada has 34 Airbus A220-300s, 4 A319-100s, 18 A320-200s, 20 A321-200s, although some brand new A321 XLRs are on the way. There are also 20 A330-300s, 43 737 MAX 8s, 6 777-200LRs, 19 777-300ERs, 8 787-8s, and 31 787-9s. For the airline's 8 767-300s, 2 of these will soon re-enter service as passenger aircraft. The others are operating as dedicated freighters for the airline's cargo operations. Air Canada's Rouge subsidiary has 37 aircraft, consisting of 18 A319s, 5 A320s, and 14 A321s. The airline group's Jets subsidiary has 4 A320s in an all-premium seating layout. Finally, the Air Canada Express brand, which is operated by Jazz Air, has 99 aircraft in the fleet. This consists of 35 Bombardier CRJ-900s, 39 de Havilland Canada-8400s, and 25 Embraer E175s. Looking at retirements from the mainline fleet, we see that Air Canada put one of its A319-100s into long-term storage in December 2024 after faithfully serving the carrier since 1997. But perhaps the more interesting retirements were 2 fairly new 767 freighters. These cargo aircraft were purpose-built and delivered new to Air Canada from Boeing in June 2022. They were originally ordered by a carrier named China Central Longhao Airlines, but never taken up by the customer. But after about 2.5 years of service, Planespotters.net data shows both jets going to join the fleet of Ethiopian Airlines in December 2024. Further research shows that Air Canada has actually leased these jets out to the African carrier, calling them surplus. Air Canada has bet big on cargo demand due to the massive disruption in air freight transportation during the pandemic. Many other airlines did as well during the depths of the global health crisis. However, by the time Air Canada's older 767s had been converted and its new freighters delivered, the air cargo market had mostly recovered. There are 2 notable upcoming changes to the airline's fleet. First, Air Canada revealed that it would be removing all of its Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft from its mainline operations, moving them to its lower-cost, leisure-focused subsidiary Air Canada Rouge, which itself will become an all-Boeing 737 MAX fleet. The A319s, A320s, and A321s at Rouge will be replaced by the single aircraft type and variant. All 40-plus units operating under the mainline Air Canada name will be transferred over the next 3 years, while the remaining deliveries will go straight to Rouge. Already we can see that brand new MAX deliveries to Air Canada do not have the mainline fleet's 2-class configuration and are instead being fitted with 189 economy seats. The other notable change in Air Canada's fleet in 2025 is the arrival of the airline's very first Airbus A321 XLRs. MightyTravels.com highlights that the carrier's order for 26 of these airframes is a mix of leases and purchases. Deliveries will start this year and, assuming all goes as planned, will stretch through to 2027. So, what do you think of Air Canada's 2024 financial performance and its fleet in early 2025? Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.